Hello everyone, and this is Glenda Winkleman, and welcome back to Creative Grandma. I have a wonderful new stitch called the Tunisian Smock Stitch. This is a special request that somebody asked me to do. I have 3 samples as always. My first sample is a striped of pink, white, and green. And for this pattern, it's better to change your colors at the beginning of the rows. It's very hard to change colors in the middle of the row with this here particular stitch pattern. I also have one done in the classic white. You can really see the detail in that. And then my last one I done with the variegated. This is all worsted weight yarn in my samples. So this stitch is a multiple of 2. For today's swatch, I'm using Red Heart Petal Pink and a size 10J 6mm hook. So for the swatch, I'm going to chain 20. So if you want to work along with me, go ahead and jump to the end of the video, get the instructions, and come back and we'll start our swatch. I have my chain 20 ready, so we're going to start row 1, which is just a basic Tunisian simple stitch. You're going to skip this first chain here and you're going to go into the next chain. Yarn over and pull it through the stitch. And you're going to do that across your chain. So find your next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull it through. Next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull it through. Find your next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull it through. So go ahead and continue across your chain and we'll meet at the end. I'm across my chain, and if you count all your loops, you should have 20 loops or the same number that you chained when you began your project. So this is the first half of row 1 where you keep all your loops on the hook. So now we're going to take the loops off. So you're going to put your yarn over the hook and you're going to pull it just through 1 stitch. That's your end stitch. Now you're going to put the yarn over the hook and pull through 2. Yarn over the hook, pull through 2. And what you're doing is you're taking your stitches back off the hook. Tunisian crochet is you put all the loops on your hook, you take all the loops off. It's a very fun way to crochet. Yarn over your hook, through 2 loops, yarn over the hook, through 2 loops, yarn over the hook, through 2 loops, and repeat that all the way over until you have just 1 loop left on your hook, and I'll be right back. I'm at the end of row 1, and this is what row 1 should look like. You should have 1 loop remaining on your hook. So now we're going to start row 2. Now with this pattern, rows 2 and 3 are the repeat pattern. It's only a 2-row repeat. But with this stitch, if you're going to make a mistake, it's going to be either when you start your new row or when you end your new row. So really pay attention, because if you don't do it right, you will lose your stitch count and it'll make your piece slanted. Okay, so to begin row 2, you're going to pull your yarn to the front of the work. What I usually do is just pull it to the front of my hook and take it from the front to the back over my hook. So you're going to come down and you're going to insert your hook under the next 2 vertical bars. You're going to skip the first one. So when it says skip the first vertical bar, it means your edge stitch right here. So follow that loop up, that's your first stitch. So insert your hook under those next 2 vertical bars. You're going to drop your yarn down underneath your hook in the front, around the back, and over, and then pull it through those 2 stitches. Now for the next one, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook from the front to the back 2 times. So front to back once, front to back twice. And what this does is, because you're going through 2 stitches and making it like one, you're pulling them together. When you wrap this, your first wrap is you're adding another stitch back on your hook, and then this pulls your stitch through and acts as the 1 stitch for joining these 2 together. So if you forget to wrap twice, you're going to be short a stitch. So anytime your stitches are not the same amount as you chain, you'll have to rip the row out until you figure out where you made your mistake. So go ahead and wrap it twice. You're going to bring your hook down and insert it in those next 2 vertical bars. You're going to bring your yarn back down underneath those 2 stitches here to the front. You're going to take your yarn underneath your hook to the back and around the front, and you're going to pull through those 2 stitches. You're going to wrap your yarn twice from front to back, once, twice. You're going to bring your hook down and insert it into the next 2 vertical bars. You're going to drop that yarn back down to the front underneath those 2 vertical bars. Take your yarn from front to back and then up around the top of your hook and pull that yarn through those 2 vertical bars. Let's do it one more time. You're going to wrap your yarn from front to back once and twice. Bring your hook down and you're going to go in those next 2 vertical bars. You're going to bring that yarn back down underneath those stitches. You're going to take your yarn from the front to the back behind your hook and up around the top, and you're going to pull it through those 2 stitches. So you're going to repeat that across until you have 1 loop, 1 vertical bar left, and we'll meet up there. I'm at the end of the first half of row 2. You have 1 vertical bar remaining, 1 vertical stitch, but if you count your stitches, now we started with 20 for our swatch, and I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. With the last stitch makes 19, so we're missing a stitch. So at the end of the row, we add a stitch, and this is how you do it. You're going to bring your yarn to the front of your hook. You're going to bring it across the top of your hook. You're going to take your index finger and you're going to hold that yarn right there. Keep your finger right on that piece of yarn. Then you're going to take your hook and you're going to insert it in both of those vertical stitches. See if you can see that better. When you're over here at your last bar, you want to go through both of those stitches. Might be hard to see because of the pink. There I went through 1 and 2. You can see. So keep your finger on that piece of yarn. If you've never done this before, it takes a little bit of getting used to. So hold your finger there, and then you're going to bring that yarn right up over the top of your hook, and you're going to pull it through that last stitch. And what that does is it just added this extra stitch you needed to get back to your 20 loops on the hook. So to take them off, when you take your loops off, it'll always be the same way with each row. You're going to put your yarn over your hook from back to front. You're going to go through just 1 loop. That is your edge stitch. To take the rest of the loops off, you're going to put your yarn over and you're going to pull through 2 loops on hook. Yarn over, through 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook. Now go ahead and work yourself across to the end of row 2 until you have one loop remaining on your hook, and we'll meet up there. So to start row 3, we're going to skip the first edge stitch and we're going to skip the next vertical stitch. So we will be working in the second stitch of that first group of 2 stitches and the first stitch of the second group of 2 stitches. So you're going to wrap your yarn around the hook from the front to the back twice, once, twice. You're going to skip that edge stitch and the next stitch, and you're going to insert your hook in those next 2 vertical stitches. You're going to bring that yarn to the front and to the bottom of those 2 vertical stitches. You're going to take your yarn from the front to the back underneath your hook and back up over the top and pull it through those 2 stitches. And you're going to work across until you have only 2 stitches remaining. So yarn over the hook twice from front to back, once, twice. You're going to insert under the next 2 vertical stitches, and make sure you do not, when you see this pattern, you'll see these slanted stitches. Do not work in those. You're going to always start from the top and look down if you've never done this, and that's where you find your stitch. So go ahead and insert it in those 2 stitches. Bring your yarn back down around to the front and underneath those 2 bars. Take your yarn from the front to the back underneath that hook and back around the top and pull it through those 2 stitches. Let's do it one more time. You're going to wrap the yarn twice from front to back. That's once, twice. You're going to go into the next 2 vertical stitches. There's 1, there's 2. You're going to take that yarn and bring it back down to the front underneath those 2 stitches, underneath your hook to the back, and then back up around the top. And then pull it through those 2 stitches. You're going to wrap your yarn twice from front to back, once, twice. You're going to insert it into the next 2 vertical stitches, bring that yarn back down to the front and underneath those 2 stitches, and then from the front to the back of that hook and up around the top of the hook, and then pull it through those 2 stitches. So go ahead and work across the row until you get to these last 2 stitches, and we'll meet up there. I'm at the end of the first half of row 3, and you can see we have 2 vertical stitches remaining. So now we need to add a stitch. So we're going to take our yarn and we're going to bring it from the front up over our hook, and then we're going to take our index finger and hold that yarn on that hook. You're going to take your hook and insert it in that next vertical stitch and keep your finger on that yarn. You're going to bring that yarn forward and pull it through that stitch. And that is how you just increased your stitch. And then you're just going to work a simple Tunisian stitch through both loops, both of those loops of that last stitch. Yarn from the back, pull it through that stitch. And when you count your stitches, you should have your 20 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So you're going to go ahead and take your stitches off the same way you did for the previous rows. Yarn over, pull it through 1 stitch only. Yarn over and pull it through 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull it through 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull it through 2 loops on the hook. So go ahead and take your loops off until you only have 1 loop remaining, and I'll return and I will show you how to bind off your work. So this is what your pattern should look like at the end of row 3. You're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for your pattern for whatever width or length you desire. So now I'm going to show you how to bind off. So when you're finished with your piece, you're going to skip this first vertical stitch here on the edge. You're going to pull your yarn to the front of the work. I just put it up over top of my hook, it's easier. And I'm going to insert into the next 2 vertical stitches. You're going to drop that yarn down underneath those 2 stitches. You're going to take your yarn from the front to the back and up across the top, and you're going to pull it through those 3 loops on your hook. So pull that through all the loops on your hook. Then you're going to chain 1. You're going to bring your yarn to the front of your work. You're going to insert your hook into those next 2 stitches. You're going to have that yarn in the front of your work underneath those 2 stitches. Take the yarn behind your hook, up around the top, and bring it through those 3 loops on the hook. You're going to chain 1. You're going to insert your hook with the yarn to the front of your work. Insert into the next 2 vertical stitches. Bring that yarn down underneath those stitches. Take your yarn from the front to the back behind your hook and up across the top, and pull it through all loops on your hook. Chain 1. And you're going to continue that to the end. So yarn in front of your hook, insert it into the next 2 vertical stitches, bring that yarn down to the bottom of those 2 stitches from the front to the back behind your hook and up over the top. Bring it through all loops on your hook and chain 1. And you're going to repeat that all the way across your row. So go ahead and work across, and we'll meet up at the end. Okay, I'm at the end of the top of my work, and you will see I have 1 vertical stitch left. So all you do is just insert that hook into those 2 bars of that last stitch, and you just slip stitch through all loops on hook. And that is how you bind off your work. So again, this is a very beautiful stitch. Very, very pretty. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Tunisian Smock. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Tunisian Smock Stitch. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.